The stars had never seemed so crowded until the day the aliens arrived. Director Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of humanity's Hope Station, watching the massive alien vessel drift into Earth's solar system. The ship was beautiful in a way that made her uncomfortable. It looked like someone had grown a building out of crystal and pearl, all smooth curves and glowing lights. Nothing like the boxy practical stations humans had built. "They're hailing us again," her assistant said quietly. "Same message." "They want to talk," Sarah nodded. 3 months ago, humanity had detected the alien ship at the edge of their solar system. 3 months of panic, preparation, and prayers. Every nation on Earth had united for the first time in history. Not out of hope, but out of fear. Now the moment had arrived. "Tell them we accept. We'll meet them here on our station." The assistant hesitated. "Director, are you sure? They might see our station as primitive. Maybe we should go to their ship?" "No," Sarah's voice was firm. "We meet on our ground. If they want to talk, they can come to us." 2 days later, the aliens arrived. Ambassador Thrixnall was not what Sarah expected. The alien stood 7 feet tall, its body made of what looked like living crystal. Light moved through it in patterns that might have been breathing or might have been thought. 3 other aliens accompanied it, each from a different species. One looked like a floating jellyfish made of silver mist. Another resembled a mechanical insect. The third was vaguely reptilian, covered in blue scales. "Greetings, humans of Earth," Thrixnall said. Its voice came from everywhere and nowhere. Translated by technology Sarah couldn't begin to understand. "We are representatives of the Galactic Council. We welcome you to the greater community of intelligent life." Sarah bowed slightly, the way her team had practiced. "We are honored by your visit. I am Director Sarah Chen, speaking for the people of Earth. The honor is ours." Thrixnall's crystal body pulsed with warm colors. "We have much to discuss. Your species has reached a level of development that requires our guidance." Something in those words made Sarah's spine stiffen. "Guidance?" "Of course." Thrixnall seemed genuinely pleased. "You are young, inexperienced in the ways of civilized space. The Council has helped 47 species make this transition. We will help you as well." The meeting that followed was nothing like Sarah had hoped. Thrixnall explained the Council's rules. Humanity would need to surrender all weapons capable of planetary destruction. They would need to submit to a protection period of 50 years, during which Council peacekeepers would maintain order on Earth. They would need to adopt Council laws, Council trade agreements, and Council oversight of their government. "This is standard procedure," Thrixnall assured them. "Every species goes through this. It ensures peace and prevents younger species from harming themselves or others." "And if we refuse?" Sarah asked carefully. The crystal alien's colors shifted to something like confusion. "Refuse? Why would you refuse? The Council offers protection, technology, and membership in the galactic community. What species would refuse such gifts?" "A free one," Sarah said quietly. Thrixnall's confusion seemed to deepen. "You are free. You will be free to grow, to learn, to prosper under Council guidance. Violence and weapons only lead to suffering. Surely you understand this?" Sarah looked at her team. Captain Marcus Webb stood behind her, his military uniform crisp and clean. His face showed nothing, but she knew him well enough to read the anger in his eyes. The other human representatives looked the same, afraid but unwilling to bow. "Ambassador Thrixnall," Sarah said slowly, "we appreciate your offer, but humanity must respectfully decline. We will keep our weapons. We will govern ourselves. We would be happy to establish trade and cultural exchanges, but we will not surrender our sovereignty." The silence that followed was heavy as a black hole. "You do not understand," Thrixnall said finally. Its colors had shifted to something dark and troubled. "This is not optional. The Council cannot allow an armed, unguided species to exist in civilized space. It would be dangerous to you and to others." "That sounds like a threat," Captain Webb said, his first words of the meeting. "Not a threat. A fact." Thrixnall's voice remained calm, almost kind. "If you will not accept protection voluntarily, the Council must enforce it for the good of all. We have protocols for this situation." Sarah felt her heart pounding. This was the moment they had all feared. "And those protocols are? Economic isolation until compliance. If that fails, military enforcement. But please understand, this is for your own good. No species has ever regretted joining the Council. Maybe because you don't let them leave," Webb muttered. Sarah raised a hand to silence him. She looked directly at Thrixnall, trying to read emotion in an alien face made of crystal. Ambassador, let me be very clear. Humanity has spent 10,000 years fighting wars. We've fought over land, resources, religion, and pride. We've nearly destroyed ourselves dozens of times. We know what violence is. We know what weapons can do. Then surely you see why you must surrender them. Thrixnall said hopefully. No. Sarah's voice was steady. We see why we must keep them. We've learned something in those 10,000 years of war. We've learned that freedom is worth fighting for. We've learned that peace without choice is just another word for slavery. And we've learned that anyone who demands we surrender our ability to defend ourselves is someone we need to defend ourselves from. Thrixnall's colors went completely dark for a moment. When they returned, they were cold blues and whites. This is unprecedented. You must reconsider. We have 30 billion people on Earth and our colonies, Sarah continued. We've debated this question for 3 months. Every nation, every culture, every political system, and we all agree, we will not submit. Then you leave us no choice. Thrixnall's voice had lost its warmth. The Council will enforce compliance. A demonstration fleet will arrive in your system within 60 days. When you see our strength, you will understand. Resistance is not possible. Maybe, Sarah said quietly. Or maybe you'll understand something about humanity. We've been fighting each other for 10,000 years. What makes you think we'll stop for you? The alien delegation left without another word. Captain Webb approached Sarah after they were gone. That went well. She allowed herself a bitter smile. Better than I expected, actually. They gave us 60 days. You really think we can fight them? Sarah looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there, an alien empire was preparing to come teach humanity a lesson. They had technology humans couldn't match. They had weapons humans couldn't imagine. They had the experience of 47 conquered species, but they had never fought humans before. I don't know if we can win, Sarah admitted, but I know we can fight. And maybe that will be enough. Webb nodded slowly. I'll inform the fleet. Operation Hornet's Nest is active. Marcus, Sarah called as he turned to leave. Make sure they understand. We're not trying to conquer anyone. We're not trying to destroy anyone. We just want them to leave us alone. And if they won't? Sarah's reflection stared back at her from the observation window. Behind her reflection, Earth hung in space like a blue marble. Home. Freedom. Worth dying for. Then we show them why humans are the worst nightmare the galaxy has ever encountered. The countdown had begun. 60 days until the Council arrived. 60 days to prepare for a war humanity never wanted but would not run from. Somewhere in the depths of space, alien generals were planning Earth subjugation. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The Council's demonstration fleet arrived exactly 60 days later, right on schedule. Captain Marcus Webb watched them come through his ship's view screen. 50 vessels, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. They moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with technology that made Earth's best ships look like toys. Well, his first officer said quietly. We're screwed. Probably, Webb agreed. But not yet. The UNSC Defiant was humanity's first true warship, built in the frantic months after the failed negotiations. She was ugly compared to the Council ships, all angles and armor plating covered in weapons that humans had spent centuries perfecting. Nuclear missiles, railguns, lasers, and some surprises the Council wouldn't expect. Webb's communicator buzzed. Captain, they're broadcasting on all channels. Let's hear it. The voice that filled the bridge was the same one from the first meeting. Ambassador Thrixnall, still trying to sound kind. People of Earth, the Council has arrived to assist in your transition to civilized membership. We will begin by disabling your military satellites and weapons platforms. Do not resist. This is for your protection. For our protection, Webb repeated slowly. Of course it is. He watched as the Council ships began their approach to Earth's orbital infrastructure. They moved with the confidence of beings who had never lost a battle. Why would they? They had overwhelming force. They had superior technology. They had done this 47 times before. They had never met humans before. All ships, Webb said into his communicator. Operation Hornet's Nest is active. Let's teach them what a hornet's nest feels like. The Council's first mistake was assuming humanity would cluster their ships for a traditional battle. Instead, Human vessels were scattered throughout the solar system, hiding in asteroid fields behind moons mixed with civilian traffic. The Council's second mistake was not expecting kamikaze tactics from a species that claimed to value life. The first Council ship died to a mining vessel packed with nuclear warheads. The second died to a missile swarm launched from Mars. The third took a kinetic kill vehicle moving at a significant fraction of light speed, a simple asteroid with engines strapped to it, nearly impossible to detect until too late. Chaos erupted in the Council formation. "Their braking pattern," Webb's tactical officer reported. "They don't know where the attacks are coming from." "Good. Hit them again." Human strategy was simple. They couldn't match Council ships in direct combat, so they wouldn't try. Instead, they would use every dirty trick humans had invented in 10,000 years of warfare. Ambushes, false retreats, cyber attacks on Council computer systems, mines, traps, suicide runs. The Council was trying to fight an honorable war. Humans were just trying to win. Thrixonol's voice came over the channels again, no longer kind. "Cease your attacks immediately. You cannot win this conflict. You are only causing unnecessary death." Webb opened a channel of his own. "You're right about one thing, Ambassador. There's a lot of unnecessary death happening. You could stop it by leaving. We are trying to help you. Then help us by going home." A Council battleship targeted the Defiant. Webb saw the energy reading spike as they prepared to fire. Evasive maneuvers. Launch countermeasures. His ship twisted away as alien weapons fire lit up space where they had been. But Webb had been in combat before during the corporate wars on Mars. He knew how to fight when outgunned. Return fire. All weapons. The Defiant's railguns hammered at the Council ship's shields. Nuclear-tipped missiles followed. It wasn't enough to destroy the enemy vessel, but it didn't need to be. Webb just needed to hurt them, make them afraid, show them that humans would not go quietly. The battle raged for 6 hours. When it ended, 23 Council ships were destroyed or too damaged to fight. The rest retreated to the outer system, their perfect formation shattered. Humanity had lost 12 ships and 2 orbital stations. 15,000 people dead. Victory and defeat mixed together, tasting like blood and ashes. But they had won. Humanity had faced the Council's might and survived. Webb slumped in his chair, suddenly exhausted. Around him, his crew looked the same. Tired, scared, but alive. "Sir," his communications officer said. "Message from Director Chen. She wants to speak to you." Sarah Chen's face appeared on screen. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Marcus, good work. We lost a lot of people, Sarah. I know, and we'll mourn them. But you bought us time." She paused. "The Council is having an emergency session. We intercepted their communications. They're arguing about what to do next. Let me guess. Some want to negotiate, some want to kill us all." "Exactly. There's one species in particular, the Kraxith hegemony. They're pushing for total extermination. They see us as an existential threat." Webb laughed bitterly. "We're the threat? We're defending our home. They don't see it that way. They've been reviewing our history, our wars, our weapons, the way we think about conflict." Sarah's expression was grim. "Marcus, they're terrified of us. Not because we're strong, but because we're willing to die fighting. Every other species they've met surrenders when faced with superior force. It's logical, rational, the civilized thing to do. But not human." "But not human," she agreed. "They're calling us mad, suicidal. They don't understand that we'd rather die free than live as slaves." Webb looked at his crew. Young men and women from every nation on Earth. They had volunteered for this mission knowing they might not come home. And they had fought brilliantly. "What's our next move?" "We prepare for round 2. Intelligence suggests the Kraxith are mobilizing their full military. They're not going to make the mistake of underestimating us again. How long do we have?" 3 months. Maybe 4, Webb nodded slowly. "Then we have 3 months to get ready. We'll need more ships, more weapons, more training. You'll have it. Every resource Earth has is going to the war effort." Sarah hesitated. "Marcus, there's something else. We captured some Council survivors. We've been treating their wounded, following the Geneva Convention protocols. And they're confused. They expected us to execute prisoners or torture them for information. That's what their warrior species do. When we gave them medical care instead, they didn't know how to react." Webb understood what she was saying. "We need to show them we're not monsters, that we're willing to be merciful." "Exactly. We're walking a razor's edge here. We need to be dangerous enough that they fear us, but humane enough that they'll negotiate with us. If they think we're just savages, they'll never stop trying to eliminate us. That's a hell of a balance, and it's the only way we survive. Sarah's image flickered. I have to go. The UN Security Council is meeting in an hour. Keep the fleet ready. This war isn't over. The screen went dark. Webb stood and addressed his crew. You all heard that. We've got 3 months before the next wave hits. That means 3 months to repair, rearm, and train. We hurt them today. We showed them that humans don't give up. But the real fight is still coming. His first officer spoke up. Sir, do you think we can win? Webb considered the question carefully. Out the view screen, Earth hung in space like a jewel. 7 continents. Thousands of cultures. Billions of people who just wanted to live their lives in peace. They hadn't asked for this war, but they wouldn't run from it either. I don't know if we can win, Webb said honestly, but I know we'll fight. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes making the enemy pay for every inch is enough to make them question if it's worth it. That's what we're going to do. We're going to make the council question everything they thought they knew about warfare. The crew nodded, determination replacing fear on their faces. 3 months until the Kraxith arrived. 3 months to prepare for a fight that would decide humanity's future. The council had meant to teach Earth a lesson. Instead, they had learned one. Humanity was done being pushed around. The war had only just begun. War leader Gornath of the Kraxith hegemony studied the tactical displays with growing satisfaction. 500 warships, 2 million soldiers, the largest military force the council had deployed in 3 centuries. It would be more than enough to crush the human infestation. The humans are primitives, his second-in-command reported. They have technology barely capable of in-system travel. Their weapons are crude. Their tactics are desperate. Gornath's scaled lips pulled back in what his species considered a smile. The Kraxith were warriors, bred and trained for combat from birth. They stood 8 feet tall, covered in armored scales with 4 arms that could tear through steel. For 500 years, they had served as the Council's military force. They had never lost a war. Do not underestimate them, Gornath warned. They destroyed 23 ships in their first engagement. That is 23 more than most species manage. They used cowardly tactics, ambushes, suicide attacks. No honor in their methods. Honor does not win wars, Gornath said. Victory wins wars. The humans understand this. That makes them dangerous. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. Gornath watched as his ships moved into formation. Perfect, precise as it should be. War leader. The humans are broadcasting a message. Let me hear it. The human female from the first meeting appeared on screen. Director Sarah Chen looked tired but defiant. Kraxith fleet, this is your final warning. Leave our system now or face the consequences. We do not want war, but we will not surrender. Gornath laughed, a harsh barking sound. You do not want war? Then you should have accepted the Council's generous offer. Now you will learn why species fear the Kraxith. He cut the transmission and gave the order. Begin the assault. Target their Mars colonies first. Show them the price of resistance. The Kraxith war doctrine was simple and effective. Overwhelming force, shock and awe, crush the enemy's will to fight in the first strike. Then occupation, re-education, integration into the Council. It had worked 47 times. It would work again. The first wave hit Mars 3 hours later. Kraxith troop carriers descended on the colony cities while warships bombarded military targets from orbit. Gornath watched the reports come in, expecting quick victory. That was when everything went wrong. The humans did not surrender when their defenses were breached. They did not flee when Kraxith soldiers entered their cities. They fought. Every street became a battlefield. Every building a fortress. Human civilians picked up weapons and joined their soldiers. Children threw explosives from windows. Elderly citizens set traps in their homes. The humans had turned their entire colony into a killing ground. Kraxith soldiers were stronger, faster, better armed. But humans kept fighting. They ambushed patrols from underground tunnels. They poisoned water supplies. They rigged buildings to collapse when soldiers entered. They used their own injured as bait for traps. This is not how war works, one of Gornath's officers protested. They should surrender once they see they cannot win. Apparently no one told the humans that, Gornath muttered. Reports flooded in. The Kraxith were taking the cities, but at a terrible cost. For every block gained, they lost dozens of soldiers. The humans used tactics no civilized species would consider: dirty bombs that made areas uninhabitable, biological weapons that targeted Kraxith physiology specifically, psychological warfare that left soldiers traumatized. One incident disturbed Gornoth more than others. A squad of Kraxith soldiers had captured a human medical facility. They expected the wounded humans to be helpless. Instead, the patients had armed themselves and fought back. Every bed had been a trap. The soldiers who survived reported that humans missing limbs had still tried to kill them. One human with a chest wound had detonated a grenade rather than surrender. "They are insane," the squad leader reported. "They would rather die than let us win." Gornoth knew the truth was worse. The humans were not insane. They were determined. There was a difference. 3 weeks into the Mars campaign, Gornoth received a report that made his blood run cold. A young Kraxith soldier named Vexakar had been captured by humans. The squad sent to rescue him found something unexpected. The humans were treating his wounds. When the rescue team arrived, guns blazing, the human medics threw themselves over Vexakar to protect him from the crossfire. 2 died shielding an enemy soldier. Vexakar was recovered, but he was changed. He kept asking questions no Kraxith should ask. Why had the humans saved him? Why had they died to protect him? The council said humans were savages, but the medics had been gentle, kind even. "The soldier is confused from his injuries," Gornoth's officers assured him. "He will recover." But Gornoth was not so sure. He had fought many wars. He had seen species surrender, seen them break, seen them accept their fate. He had never seen species act like the humans did, fighting past all logic, showing mercy to enemies even while being slaughtered. It made no sense. The Mars campaign dragged on. 1 month became 2, then 3. The Kraxith held the cities, but humans controlled everything else. Supply convoys were attacked constantly. Patrols vanished without trace. Soldiers began suffering from what human doctors called post-traumatic stress disorder, a condition Kraxith had no name for because they had never experienced it. Gornoth's second-in-command approached him in the command center. "War leader, we need to discuss the situation." "What situation?" "The soldiers. They are breaking." The officer's voice was quiet, ashamed. "They have nightmares. They flinch at sounds. Some refuse to go on patrol. This has never happened to Kraxith warriors before." "What are you saying?" "I am saying the humans are winning. Not militarily, psychologically, they are inside our soldiers' heads. Every trap, every ambush, every suicide attack teaches our troops that the enemy will never stop. That there is no safe place. That any human, even a child, might be a threat." Gornoth looked at the casualty reports. 60% losses. Not all dead, but dead, wounded, or psychologically unfit for combat. Unacceptable. "We will adapt. We will—" "War leader." The communications officer interrupted, something he would normally never dare to do. "The moon. The humans are launching an offensive on our forces there. The moon was supposed to be secure. 10,000 Kraxith soldiers held it against a few thousand human defenders. But those human defenders had suddenly erupted from hidden bunkers across the lunar surface. They used moon buggies as assault vehicles. They wore mining equipment as armor. They improvised weapons from construction tools, and they were winning." Gornoth watched the reports in growing horror. The humans on the moon were not even proper soldiers. They were colonists, miners, engineers, but they fought like demons. A transmission came through from the lunar battlefield. A Kraxith officer surrounded by dead humans and dying Kraxith. "They won't stop. We killed their commander and they kept fighting. We destroyed their supply depot and they kept fighting. What does it take to make them stop?" Before Gornoth could answer, a human voice came through the same channel. Calm, almost friendly. "You could try leaving." Then explosions, screams, silence. Gornoth made his decision. Begin withdrawal from Mars and the moon. Consolidate forces in orbit. "War leader?" His officers stared at him in shock. "We have never retreated. We have never fought humans before," Gornoth interrupted. "Look at the numbers. Look at the casualties. We came here with 2 million soldiers. We have lost 60%. The humans have lost more, but they do not care. They keep fighting. If we continue this way, we will lose everyone. The Council will not accept retreat. The Council has never fought a ground war against humans. I have, and I am telling you, we cannot win this way." Gornoth looked at the tactical display showing Mars, covered in red markers indicating combat zones. The humans have a saying, "We're not trapped in here with you. You're trapped in here with us." I finally understand what it means. The withdrawal began immediately. Kraxith ships retrieved surviving soldiers from the surface. The humans let them go, content to reclaim their territory without needlessly extending the battle. As Gornath's fleet left Earth's solar system, he received one final transmission from Director Chen. "We didn't want this war leader Gornath. Remember that. You came to our home. You attacked our families. You tried to conquer us. We only did what any species would do. We defended ourselves." Gornath said nothing. There was nothing to say. The Kraxith had lost their first ground war, and every species in the Council would know it. The humans had done the impossible. They had made the Kraxith afraid. 1 year after first contact, humanity launched its first faster-than-light vessel. The ship was called Prometheus, and she was beautiful in the way a sword is beautiful. All sharp edges and deadly purpose. Human engineers had torn apart captured Council vessels, studying every circuit and every equation until they understood the principles of FTL travel. Then they had built their own version, adapted for human needs. Captain Marcus Webb stood on the bridge of the Prometheus, looking at the star charts that former Council slaves had secretly shared with humanity. The Vrenti were an aquatic species who had suffered under Council rule for 2 centuries. When they learned humans had defeated the Kraxith in ground combat, they had reached out secretly. "These are the Council's supply routes," Webb told his crew. "Their shipyards. Their logistics networks. We're not going to attack their homeworlds. We're not going to kill civilians. We're going to cripple their ability to make war." Behind him stood Director Sarah Chen. She had insisted on coming on this mission, the first human strike beyond their solar system. "The Council expects us to lash out," Chen said. "They expect revenge attacks, terror strikes, massacres. We're going to surprise them." "Again," Webb added with a slight smile. The first fleet consisted of 200 ships, not many by Council standards, but each one packed with weapons and crewed by veterans of the Sol War, as people were calling it now. Men and women who had watched their homes burn and their families die. They had every reason to want revenge, but humanity had learned something important. Revenge was easy. Building something better was hard. "First target is the shipyard at Kepler Station," Webb announced. "It's a major production facility, mostly automated. Minimal crew. We take it intact if possible, destroy it if we must." The fleet jumped to FTL and reality twisted around them. Human stomachs lurched. Human minds struggled to process the impossible geometry of faster-than-light travel. But they endured, as humans always did. They emerged in the Kepler system to find the station defended by 20 Council warships. "They were expecting us," Chen observed. "Good. That means they're afraid." Webb opened a channel. "Council vessels, this is Captain Marcus Webb of the human fleet. Stand down and evacuate the station. You have 1 hour." The Council commander responded immediately. "You are in violation of Council space. You will withdraw immediately or be destroyed." "You came to our space first," Webb replied. "You attacked our homes, killed our families. Now we're here to make sure you can't do it again. Last chance. Leave or fight." The Council ships opened fire. Human vessels scattered using the same tactics that had worked in Sol system. But these crews had been training for a year. They knew their ships. They knew their weapons. And they knew how to fight. The battle lasted 3 hours. When it ended, 15 Council ships were destroyed. 5 surrendered. The rest fled. Human casualties. 2 ships damaged. 0 destroyed. The shipyard was taken intact. Inside, human engineers found technical specifications, construction equipment, and something more valuable: intelligence data on Council military deployments. "Sarah, look at this," Webb called her to the command center. This station wasn't just building ships. It was coordinating Council fleets across a dozen sectors. "We just captured their regional headquarters." Chen studied the data, her mind working through implications. "We can use this. We know where their supply lines are, where their weak points are," she paused, "and we know which species are being held against their will." Webb understood immediately. "You want to liberate them. I want to give them a choice. The Council claims to offer freedom and protection. Let's show them what real freedom looks like." Over the next 3 months, humanity struck at Council infrastructure across the sector. They hit supply depots, communications relays, and logistics hubs, but they also did something the Council never expected. When human forces captured a slave world called Vexthar, they found a species called the Vreld being used as forced labor. The Vreld were small, barely 4 feet tall, covered in soft fur. The Council had conquered them 50 years ago and put them to work in mines and factories. The human Marines who liberated the Vreld gave them food, medical care, and a choice: stay with humanity, return to their homeworld, or settle somewhere new, whatever they wanted. The Vreld Council met with Captain Webb personally. Their leader, an elderly female named Shira, looked at him with large, fearful eyes. "Why do you do this? You could enslave us like the Council did. You could use us as you wished. Why free us?" Webb knelt to look her in the eye. "Because we know what it's like to be threatened with slavery. Because we believe every species has the right to choose their own path. And because the enemy of our enemy doesn't have to be our slave. They can be our friend," word spread fast. Humanity was not conquering. They were liberating. And everywhere humans went, they offered the same message: join us or don't. But choose freely. More and more species began to defect from the Council. The Crystalline Collective, Ambassador Thrixnel's species, voted to leave the Council entirely. They sent a message directly to Earth. "We were wrong about you," Thrixnel's message said. "We thought you were savages because you would not submit. We understand now. Submission without choice is not civilization. It is tyranny." The Crystalline Collective wishes to open diplomatic relations with humanity. On equal terms, Chen authorized the negotiations personally. She met with Thrixnel on a neutral station. Their second meeting since that first disastrous encounter. "Ambassador," Chen greeted formally. "Director Chen." Thrixnel's crystal body pulsed with colors that Chen had learned indicated shame. "I must apologize. I truly believed the Council was helping species. I did not see that we were oppressing them." "I believe you," Chen said simply. "Most tyranny comes from people who think they're doing the right thing. The Council believed it was protecting the galaxy, but protection without consent is just control by another name. Your species has taught us much. You fight with honor even in the midst of war. You show mercy to enemies. You free slaves rather than make new ones. These are not the actions of savages. We're not perfect," Chen admitted. "We've done terrible things to each other, but we're trying to be better, and we're willing to help others do the same." The alliance with the Crystalline Collective opened doors. More species left the Council. Some joined humanity. Others simply declared independence. The Council was fracturing, but not everyone was happy about it. The Kraxith hegemony, humiliated by their defeat at Earth, demanded one final confrontation. War leader Gornoth himself issued a challenge. The entire Kraxith fleet would meet humanity at Earth for a decisive battle. "It's a trap," Webb said when he heard the news. "Of course it's a trap," Chen agreed. "But we can't refuse. If we don't show up, they'll claim we're cowards. The species watching will wonder if we're really as strong as we claim. So we give them their battle. We give them their battle. But on our terms." The Kraxith fleet assembled at the edge of Earth's solar system. 3,000 ships. Every warship the hegemony possessed. It was the largest military force ever assembled in known galactic history. Humanity met them with 500 ships. Webb stood on the bridge of the Defiant, his original command, now flagship of Earth's defense fleet. Around him on every human vessel, men and women prepared for what might be their final battle. "This is it," Webb said quietly. "Everything we've fought for comes down to this. If we lose, Earth falls. The Council regroups. Everything we've gained is lost. Then we don't lose," his first officer said simply. Chen's face appeared on every screen in the fleet. She looked calm, confident, every inch a leader. "To all human forces and to our allies who stand with us today, the Kraxith have come to our home for the 3rd time. They believe their superior numbers will carry the day. They believe we will break. They believe we will surrender." She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was steel. "They have never been more wrong. We are humanity. We have survived ice ages and plagues. We have survived wars that nearly destroyed our species. We have survived tyrants and disasters and our own worst instincts, and we will survive this. The Kraxith want to teach us a lesson. Instead, we're going to teach them one. We're going to show them that freedom is worth fighting for, that courage matters more than numbers, that humans don't give up, don't surrender, and don't bow. Today we fight for our home. We fight for our families. We fight for every species that the Council has oppressed. And we fight for the simple right to choose our own destiny. So let's show them what humanity means. Let's show them why we're the worst nightmare the galaxy ever encountered. The Kraxith fleet began their approach, and humanity prepared for the battle that would decide everything. The Battle of Terra began at dawn on Earth, though dawn meant nothing in the darkness of space. War leader Gornath led the Kraxith fleet personally. 3,000 ships against humanity's 500. The numbers favored him overwhelmingly, but he had learned to fear humans. They did not fight like any species he had encountered. They were unpredictable, ruthless, and absolutely unwilling to surrender. Begin the assault, Gornath ordered, but be cautious. Watch for traps. The Kraxith fleet advanced in a careful formation. They expected ambushes. They expected suicide attacks. They expected everything humans had used before. What they did not expect was for humanity to charge directly at them. All ships, full assault, Captain Webb ordered. Right down their throats. The human fleet accelerated to maximum speed, weapons blazing. It looked like suicide. It looked like desperation. That was exactly what Webb wanted them to think. The Kraxith fleet opened fire, confident they could destroy the humans before they got close. But human ships were smaller, faster, and had been designed for exactly this kind of combat. They wove through the Kraxith formation like sharks, striking and dodging, never staying still long enough to be targeted effectively. And behind the human fleet came something else. Thousands of missiles, drones, and automated weapons platforms. Not enough to win the battle, but enough to create chaos. They're trying to break our formation, Gornath's tactical officer reported. Do not break. Maintain discipline. We outnumber them 6-1. Hold formation and they will die. But humans had no intention of playing by those rules. They targeted the Kraxith command ship specifically, trying to decapitate the enemy leadership. They used nuclear weapons with abandon, something no civilized species would do in their own solar system. They sacrificed individual ships to protect the fleet as a whole, and they fought with a fury the Kraxith had only seen on Mars. Every human seemed to understand that this was the final stand. This was where they either won their freedom or lost everything. 4 hours into the battle, the Kraxith began to realize they might not win. War leader, an officer reported, fear in his voice. We've lost 800 ships. The humans have lost 90. At this rate, I can do math, Gornath snapped. Continue the assault. Target their flagship. The Defiant shook as weapons fire hammered her shields. Webb gripped his command chair, watching the displays as his ship took damage. Shield strength? Down to 40%. Hull breaches on decks 7 and 9. Casualty reports coming in. Keep fighting. All weapons target that battleship. Take it out, the Defiant's railguns spoke. Missiles followed. The Kraxith battleship's shields collapsed, and the human weapons tore into her hull. The enemy ship exploded in a ball of fire. Another one down, Webb's first officer reported. But Captain, we can't take much more of this. Webb knew she was right. The Defiant was dying. All around them, human ships were being destroyed. They were killing Kraxith at an impressive rate, but the numbers were still against them. Then something changed. New ships appeared on the sensors. Dozens of them. Then hundreds, contacts jumping in from FTL, the tactical officer shouted. Multiple vectors. IFF signatures are their council species. Crystalline Collective. Frenti, Vreld, and others. The communications board lit up with incoming messages. Webb opened the first one. Ambassador Thrixnell's voice filled the bridge. Captain Webb, the Crystalline Collective has decided. We will not stand by while the Kraxith destroy a free species. We are here to help. More messages followed. The Vrenti commander. You freed our people from slavery. Now we fight for your freedom. A Vreld captain. You gave us a choice. We choose to stand with you. Even some Kraxith ships were breaking formation, refusing to fight. Young Vexkar, the soldier who had been captured and treated by humans, led a group of defectors who simply shut down their weapons and drifted away from the battle. Gornath watched his fleet crumble in disbelief. This was not how wars worked. Soldiers did not defect in the middle of battle. Allies did not switch sides because of sentiment. Victory was about force, about numbers, about discipline, but humans had changed all the rules. War leader, his second-in-command, said quietly, "We cannot win. We must withdraw." Withdraw? Gornath's voice was hollow. The Kraxith have never withdrawn. Then we die here. All of us. Is that what you want? Gornath looked at the tactical display. 1,200 Kraxith ships remained, but they were now outnumbered by the combined human and allied fleet, and his soldiers were losing their will to fight. He could see it in the reports. Ships not firing at full capacity, formations drifting, discipline breaking. The humans had not just won militarily. They had won something more important. They had won hearts and minds. They had shown the galaxy that there was another way. Signal the fleet. Gornath said finally. Ceasefire. Request parley. The battle stopped as suddenly as it had started. Ships on both sides held their fire, weapons still charged but no longer shooting. In the silence, Gornath sent a message directly to Director Sarah Chen. You have won, Director Chen. The Kraxith surrender. We will withdraw from your system and end hostilities. Chen's response was not what he expected. War Leader Gornath, we accept your surrender. But we have a condition. You will stand trial for war crimes. You ordered attacks on civilian populations. You are responsible for millions of deaths. You will face justice. Gornath felt something he had never experienced before. Not fear, not anger, but something like relief. I accept. I will surrender myself to your custody. We will treat you fairly, Chen promised, under the laws of war as humans understand them. You will have legal representation. You will have a trial, and if convicted, you will be punished appropriately, but you will not be tortured. You will not be executed. You will be treated with the dignity that all sentient beings deserve. Gornath did not understand these humans. They fought like demons but showed mercy like saints. They destroyed his fleet but promised him a fair trial. It made no sense by Kraxith logic, but perhaps that was why they had won. The surrender was formalized over the next few days. The Kraxith fleet departed Earth's solar system. Gornath turned himself over to human custody and was given a comfortable cell, medical care, and visits from legal advisors. The humans were true to their word. 6 months later, peace talks began on a neutral station. 31 council species attended. Some wanted to continue fighting. Most wanted peace. All of them were tired. Sarah Chen stood before the assembly and presented humanity's terms. The room fell silent as she spoke. We do not ask for reparations. We do not ask for territory. We do not ask for revenge. We ask only for 3 things. First, the council must dissolve and reform as a democratic federation where all species have equal voice. Second, there must be trials for those who ordered attacks on civilians, human or otherwise. Third, the practice of forcing species into membership must end. All species must be free to choose their own path. The council representatives looked at each other in confusion. You won the war, one of them said. You could demand anything. Why ask for so little? Because we didn't fight to conquer, Chen replied. We fought to be free, and we believe every species deserves that same freedom. We're not interested in building an empire. We're interested in building a better galaxy. The vote was close, but it passed. The Galactic Council dissolved. In its place, the Galactic Federation was formed. A democratic union where species joined voluntarily, where decisions were made collectively, and where military force could only be used defensively. Humanity became a founding member. 5 years later, Sarah Chen stood in her office on Earth looking up at the stars. So much had changed. The galaxy was at peace mostly. There were still conflicts, still problems, still species that distrusted humans. But things were better. A chime announced a visitor. Ambassador Thrixnell entered, its crystal body pulsing with warm colors. Director Chen, or should I say Ambassador Chen now? Sarah smiled. Sarah is fine. We're friends, aren't we? I would like to think so. Thrixnell moved to the window. I have been thinking about our first meeting. When we came to Earth and demanded you submit, we were so certain we were right. You thought you were helping. We thought we were civilized and you were not. We thought violence was the mark of savagery, and submission was the mark of wisdom. We were wrong about many things. We've all learned since then, Sarah said. Even us. We've learned that strength without mercy is tyranny, that victory without honor is meaningless, that the goal of war should always be peace. You have taught the galaxy much. Though I must ask, do your people still call themselves the galaxy's worst nightmare? Sarah laughed. Some do. Others prefer to say we're the galaxy's wake-up call. Personally, I think we're just people trying to do our best. Thrixnell's colors shifted to something like amusement. You are much more than that. You are the species that refused to bow, the species that fought impossible odds and won, the species that could have conquered but chose mercy instead. That is not a nightmare. That is hope. Outside the window, ships from a dozen species flew past Earth. Trade vessels, exploration ships, passenger liners. The solar system was no longer isolated but connected to the wider galaxy. Human children and alien children attended schools together,